You guys, I am planning to read 17 books this month. That's right, your girl is doing the Bookie Trials. You're an idiot, you know that? That's very possible. Hi everyone, I'm Sharon. This is a time for reading, and I wanted to be able to go over my Book Junkie Trials TBR. Did I say it all right? I'm not sure. It's super late and I'm a little delirious. First off, what I wanted to announce was I am a mage. Even more importantly, I've picked my books, people. I literally picked all these books out like a couple days ago because I was just like, I wonder what books I'm gonna read because, never too early to pick out your TBR. I also had a little brief crazy period where I was looking at my stack. A couple of my books are e-arcs. Okay, so not all of them are here in physical form. That being said, I was looking at my stack and was just like, oh, there's barely any books there. What am I doing? Like, maybe I can add more books, right? No, it's freaking stupid. Why would you add more books when you have 17 books on the list? That all being said, I am doing the Mage prompts, and I do not currently have Neil Gaiman's Stardust book with me yet. It is en route from the library right now. I checked earlier today. One of the strengths of being a mage is get to start 3 days early, and it doesn't get better than that when you got a crap ton of books to read. It's a little nerve-wracking because June was definitely not my month for reading. I pretty much suck. More than half my books are still sitting there unread. So it's a really good time when my confidence is high to be reading this much, right? Yeah. Good news is I'm going on vacation and I love reading on vacation, so I think I can do this. It's gonna be so much fun. I cannot wait. So the very first of the prompts for the Magi is actually Orc Grove. Read a book that is gory, gritty, or gruesome. And the first book that I picked, let's see if this flips over, was actually Wilder Girl. Sorry for the glare, guys. By Rory Power. And this book is actually let me put that down. This book is actually a feminist retelling of Lord of the Flies, which I also have not read yet. It actually comes out July 9th, if I'm not mistaken. And some of the trigger warnings on the author's website, literally right in the beginning, is like, it's gory. So I was like, okay, so this is supposed to fit the bill right then and there. It's gonna be a good way to start out my Friday morning. And then we have the next stop on our journey to the Bookie Grail, and that next stop is actually Old Pirate Cove or Grove. I saw it both ways, so I'm not entirely sure which one it is, but basically you're supposed to read a book that takes place on or by the sea. And the book that I chose for this is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I have been trying to read this for a really long time. I started reading it, I think, on 2 separate occasions, and this is a classic that I'm a bit intimidated by, so it almost went for that prompt, but I had another one, don't worry. And I really wanted to be able to get this in early while I'm on the vacation, because the few times I have read it, that's always been the thing that interrupted me in reading it. My schedule was just so busy, and it is a dense, slow read because the language is very, very flowery and just very descriptive about everything. And normally I am that person that like tends to skim descriptions of like locations and stuff, but she writes it so beautifully that I was just sitting there reading every single word. So because of this, I just want to be able to sink into this while I'm on vacation. This book itself is about a woman. Basically, she ends up meeting this man. They get married really quickly, and she moves in with him before she knows much about him, and then finds out that things are a little creepy at his place. So Rebecca isn't the name of the main character. It is actually the name of the guy, Maxim de Winter's first wife, who is no longer with us, but is still very much with us. She's still very present in this book. From what I understand, like, this book has very spooky vibes. If it fails the prompts, it has taken me so long to get to it, and I know that if it's on my TBR, I'm so much more likely to read it. So can't wait to get to this guy. Our next stop is Glimmer, and to fulfill reaching this destination, completing this prompt, however you want to call it, we have to read either a beautiful or a colorful book. That book is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So this book has been on my TBR before. I hadn't gotten to it. I know, it's terrible. There's a woman named Evelyn Hardcastle. She is basically gonna just keep dying every single day. I think it's like at 11 p.m. or something. Hold on, let me double check that. Yes, at 11 p.m. This person, Aiden something or other, every single day at 11 p.m. after she dies, he gets put into the body of another one of the witnesses that are at the table when she dies. And each of the witnesses, I guess, has different information to give him. And the only way that this loop can stop, the only way that he can stop having to watch her die over and over and over again is by finding out who the killer is. So it's a very unique kind of mystery, and it's beautiful. So our very last stop before we reach the Bookie Grail will be to actually go to the Draconic Isle. Now this means we have to read a book that features a dragon. Those who know me and love me know that I have a book buying problem, and I am trying my very best not to continue adding to that. So because of that, I wanted to make sure that everything I picked, as long as I possibly can, let's face it, your girl's not known for her self-control, everything I picked for the next few whatever period of time came directly from my bookshelves. So because of that, that was a little tricky because I don't have a ton of books that have dragons. She doesn't say how many times you have to see the dragon. And let's face it, I haven't read the damn book. So I don't even know how many times a dragon is in this book. And that book is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. So this book is about a girl named Morgan Crow. She is a cursed child. She was born Eventide, which is the unluckiest day of the year. So because of that, she is basically considered to be at fault for every bad thing that happens in her community. And to make things even worse, because she was born on this day, that means that she also has to die on midnight of her 11th birthday. So of course she's dreading this and she doesn't want this to happen. Right before her 11th birthday, this man called Jupiter North comes and rescues her and takes her to Nevermore. There's a society called the Wondrous Society, and if she's able to join the society, she will avoid her fate, basically. She won't have to die. There, that's my bookish summary. See, if I put books in my TBR multiple times, I will eventually learn what the hell they're about, even if I don't ever read them. And of course, after reading Nevermore, I will have the ability to go reach the Bookie Grail, which means I'll be able to read the group book, which is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Again, like I said, I don't have that here with me currently. It is en route to the library last I checked. So let's cross our fingers and hope that it shows up in time for me to read it while I'm on vacation. Now that we've covered all the books that are part of the Magi TBR, I wanted to make sure I went over the rest of the books that I have picked out. So the very first prompt I'm going to go over is Crimson Peaks, and for that one you have to reread a favorite. And for that book I actually chose After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It was the first ever Taylor Jenkins Reid book I've ever read, and she basically became one of my authors to watch and is now currently one of my favorite authors ever. Whenever she's got a book, Sharon is reading it, so you know. Anyway, on to the next prompt. The next prompt is Queendom Stone, which is a book featuring royalty. So I decided to pick Midsummer's Night Dream, #NoFilter. Basically, I have two books of this kind where it's Shakespearean books translated into text message. I don't know how better to word that, but that's basically what's happening. I knew if I didn't put this for a readathon at some point, I'd probably never actually get around to reading it, because it's just not something that you would think, wow, I'm really in the mood to read Shakespeare in the form of text messages. Like, who does that? So I thought this would be perfect and a great way to break up all the many bigger books that I have. My goal with the readathon was to make sure that I'd have a bunch of books, but then try to keep the average page count around 300 or so. And I think when I last checked, it was like 309, 310, something around that line. So this fits right into that and still allows me to keep on my page average. I do have to go out of order for this a little bit because the next prompt is The Forgotten Forest, where you're supposed to read the next in series. But the book that I picked as next in series is next in series after a book that fits another prompt. So we're going out of order. So for the prompt, Empty Barrel Inn, if I'm not mistaken, you're supposed to pick an indulgent read. So what I picked was A Study in Charlotte. This series is basically about a girl named Charlotte. She's a direct descendant of Sherlock Holmes, and she has a Watson, and they solve crimes, and it's a YA mystery series. It's supposed to be very light, fun, and to me, that's an indulgent kind of read. Like, if anything, I tend to gravitate a lot more these days towards books out of my comfort zone, and for me, this is something very much in my comfort zone, so because of that, I don't tend to pick these up anymore. I don't know exactly what the mystery itself is happening in this book. I don't want to find out until I'm reading it, so oh well. And the book for The Forgotten Forest prompt will be The Last of August, which is the second in the series. The next prompt is Weeping Falls, and I'm supposed to read a tearjerker, and for that I decided to choose one of my Mitch Albom books. I feel like every single time I've read one of his books, which has been twice so far, I have bawled like a freaking baby. This man has a decision when he's young, like you can either be a daddy's boy or a mama's boy, and he picks his dad, but it turns out that his dad spends most of his life being super abusive to him and treating him very horribly. And because of that, he ends up treating people very horribly and then dies. He actually kills himself. And when he wakes up, he finds himself at like a cabin or something. But wherever he finds himself, he goes in and finds his mother, who had, I believe, passed away years before, and gets to spend one more day with her. And if that doesn't sound like something that's going to set you up to just bawl your freaking eyes out, I don't know what does. Next we have Dwarf Mount. It's supposed to be a book with a tad bit of romance. The book I chose was YOLO Juliet. Again, this is another one of those Shakespeare books that's retold in the form of text messages. So this should be so much fun. This is definitely one of the most well-known love stories of all time. So a little bit more than a tad bit of romance, if you know what I'm saying. And for my next prompt, it is the Apothecary Towers, and that one means I have to choose a book at random from my bookshelf. So what I did was I went on Goodreads and I just scrolled back and forth, up and down, just trying to pick out a book, and whatever my finger landed on when I finally stopped scrolling was gonna be the book that I chose. So I ended up with White Fang by Jack London. This is yet another book that I got from Goodwill, and I absolutely loved The Call of the Wild. I've never read White Fang, but if it's anything like that, I can't wait. And now for the Great Library prompt. This prompt said that I would have to pick a book that's been on my TBR forever, and as I've told you, I've read pretty much every single Taylor Jenkins Reid book except this one. I actually looked it up on Amazon because I did buy it on Amazon, and according to Amazon I bought it in like November of 2015. That was like 4 years ago, almost 3.5 at this point, whatever. It's been a long freaking time. I've been meaning to read this. This book is about a woman who, she gets married to this guy after only knowing him for a very, very short period of time, and then he dies, and then she ends up having to go meet his mother for the very first time. It's like, it's stressful enough to meet your spouse's parents when your spouse is alive. When they're dead and your mother-in-law didn't even know you existed, that's a really awkward freaking situation. I could just imagine it's very fraught with emotional issues. I love how Taylor Jenkins Reid writes relationships, so I'm so down for this book. I want this off my TBR. I'm ready for it to be read. And the next stop is The Drowning Deep. This is a prompt that asks you to find a book with a very rich world building that'll suck you right in. And the book that I chose for this is Gods of Jade and Shadow. It is not out yet. I have an e-arc of it, which is why I'm not showing it to you right now. The Gods of Jade and Shadow basically is a book that is based off of Mayan and Mexican folklore. I feel like fantasy in general has very rich world building, especially when it's based on existing cultures and folklore. So it should be really, really interesting. And my next stop is the Elven Guard, which means I have to read a book that features war or political aspects. And I think one other aspect, but that doesn't matter because mine features war, and it's my arc of The Philosopher's War. I am currently in the midst of reading The Philosopher's Flight right now. It's really, really good so far, so I can't wait to get to The Philosopher's War. I don't want to read the synopsis because, like I said, I'm still in the midst of the first one, and a lot of times when you read the sequel to a book, it'll kind of spoil stuff that happened in the first book, and I ain't trying to do that. So sorry. For the next prompt, On the Hollow Isle, which involves reading an atmospheric or horror book. So the book I chose for this is yet another one of my arcs, because I'm reading them all this month apparently. It's called Theme Music, and this book itself, I only have, like I said, I don't tend to read a lot of the description after I've gotten it and requested it. I usually just let myself be a little bit more surprised when I'm actually reading it. But the gist that I remember is basically this girl was found at the scene of her family's murder when she was like little, and then there was like this music that was playing when she was found, and this is years later. That's the gist I remember, and even that might be wrong. And the very last book that I will be talking about, since I've already covered my indulgent read, is The Giant Squid book prompt filler, whatever. The Giant Squid's prompt is to read a book that intimidates you. So I chose Ashes in the Snow. I have had this book since I think end of last year, if I'm not mistaken. I did not pick this for myself. I literally, I don't know what I was doing. I was at Barnes & Noble's and I was with my nephew and we were at the young adult aisle. I'm like, you can't do too much damage here, right? So I was like, you know what? Just pick me a book. Whatever the hell you want me to read, just pick it for me. I'll read it. And he picked this one, Ashes in the Snow. This is not my style. I don't know what I was thinking. So this book involves some very, very heavy topics from what I could tell. It is a story about this girl. She gets taken by the Soviet police and then Soviet soldiers and then taken into a prison camp. In order to try to get back to her dad, she starts creating these little drawings and secret messages to try to get to her dad, but she doesn't know if they're actually reaching him. Yeah, I'm nervous with that one, but you know, it fulfills the prompt. And I told my nephew I was gonna be reading this month, and he lost it. He literally got so happy, so I guess I gotta read it. I don't know, but yeah, that's my TBR, you guys. That's a lot of freaking books. Holy crap. I'm hoping because of vacation things will be a lot easier, and who knows, maybe I'll get to 20 books. That would be so cool. I did do 18 books the month before last, so 17 books is definitely in the realm of possibilities, but I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching my video. I always appreciate it. If you liked what you saw, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. If you want to chat with me, comment down below. I'd love to talk about the different books that I picked. What books are you picking? And of course, if you guys haven't already signed up for the Bookie Trials, like, make sure you do. These prompts are so cool, just because it is probably the most random TBR I've ever created. And honestly, like, Rachael Marie Book Junkie put in so much freaking work. I'm so beyond impressed. So definitely go check out her channel. She is fantastic, and hopefully you guys will find a time for reading this month. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.